Hello everyone, welcome to THLGK. The title today could be resumed into one word: life. How life is used to manipulate us. But it's so broad. Ooh. A little bit of tongue twist here. So I separated into three parts that are almost always used to manipulate us: tragedy, death, and miracles, which we could also call probabilities. Let's get to them. How are these three elements used to manipulate us? Here's the thing. They are individual elements, but they are interconnected. So we can't really separate them. A tragedy usually leads to death or a positive probability, which they call miracles. Miracles usually happen because of a tragedy. The same with death. The other way around, right? Because a natural death everyone's expecting. Everyone knows, oh, you've run your course. You are at the end. But it's within this connection, this interconnection, that the manipulation occurs. Look, why is it that whenever we're dealing with a religious person, everything positive is thanks to God, and everything negative is either silence or the devil? This is the result of their indoctrination, of the manipulation. And no wonder politicians love this, right? Love religious people, because once someone with this mindset picks a politician, it's the same idea. The politician can do no wrong. Everything wrong that happens is blamed on something else, on someone else. It's the same process. That's why I say religion and politics, they are conflated. They're basically the same thing. That's why politics allows religions to exist to this day, because they can use them. Religion trains people to think in a certain way, and politics comes and makes use of that. Really, the same process. Everything positive is God. God can never do anything negative, cannot do anything evil. It was not always like this. If you study the history of Judaism, God could do anything He wanted. There was no limit to what God would do. Good or evil. But again, during the process of the centralization of worship in Jerusalem, the priests came, and this is what you can easily do to imagine. Imagine a bowl, right? Because that was the image of God. Oh, God doesn't have an image. Yes, He did. Today, sure, they took that out, but they took that out 2,500 years ago, around that. That's the fun part. God the idol of God, the representation of God, was a bow. That's why when Moses comes back and the people is worshiping a golden calf, that's the image of God. That's the representation of God. They are not worshiping a different God in the narrative. They're not worshiping anyone because the narrative is made up. But the idea is they were made to worship the image of God. And why was it bad? Because the temple priests did not want idols to exist anymore. Because the idol is a way you can contact the divine. So if you have idols spread to the land, you don't have to go to Jerusalem, to the temple. You can just go to the closest place you have an idol. That's why you can even have it at your own home, and that's why idols were forbidden. There was always a scheme. So imagine the bull. If you saw a bull, you can check online, you see those huge things going back and forth, right there. Now a priest came, he grabbed it, and then it's gone. He cut it off. Now God can do no evil. Of course, this is a process, right? It's not immediate. But that's basically where we are today. God can do no evil. Can do no bad things. He's all powerful, but he can do bad things. Which we'll talk about. That's why you have the need to create the devil. The devil did not exist. In the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible, there are no demons, there is no devil. They have to exist once you castrate God. Now someone has to be responsible for the bad things. And the punching bag is the devil. So can you already see how tragedy, death, and miracles start to take shape as a manipulation tool? Because from a religious perspective, it's very good that everything positive is attributed to God. It's not them usually attribute. It's the people themselves. The people get cancer and then they go to treatment. Oh boy. Let's ignore that part. And they're cured. Those who are, because there are those who die. And those who are cured say, God cured me. What? Yes, God cured me from my disease. How about the person who died? It's either silence or, yes, God took them to heaven. Or they didn't believe in God. They were sinful. You hear many of those things. There are infinite variants here. But you see how tragedy suits the needs of religion. We also have the part of virtual signaling. I believe it was last year, there was a boat who sank the way to Italy, and then a priest was talking about it. It's like, what a tragedy that was, a terrible tragedy, human. So, okay, who do you think sank the boat? Who gave you cancer in the first place? This is how they manipulate. The positive is God. Now, nobody thinks about who gave the person cancer. Well, if God cured it, why give it? Why let it happen in the first place? If the cancer starts appearing, God can go snuff it out. But no, the person has to get diagnosed, go through lengthy treatment, get cured, and then praise God. A tragedy leading to a positive outcome is thanks to God. A tragedy leading to a bad outcome, to death, in the case of the migrant boat, is a human tragedy. God is nowhere to be found. Let me tell you, God was in the boat with them. Yes, he was, because God is everywhere. It's one of his attributes. And he was there watching as every single one of them was drowning to death. He was there watching. Men, women, children, their lives being snuffed out in terrible suffering, and he was there watching. But of course not. Of course that's human tragedy. This is the manipulative nature of these three elements. And there are many, many other ways this can be used. For instance, there was a tragedy here in Brazil. I believe it was a couple of years ago. It was a family traveling by car. It's like mother, father, and I think it's 6 or 8 children, something like that. Everyone but one child died in a terrible crash accident. That's a miracle. It's like, what? So you had children like basically babies, toddlers, under 10, and the oldest one survived. And people keep saying, oh, it's a miracle, it's a miracle, it's a miracle. But it's always like this. The moment you start noticing how the positive is always God, the miracles are always God, regardless if you are a believer or not. And of course, this is not limited to Christianity. Other religions do the same thing. But again, polytheist religions are more difficult because the gods are not that limited, although they are limited in other ways. It's a nice little mess. But in moral religions, like the monotheisms, it's usually how it goes. So, I'm considering here, there is another example that happened last year, right, in the US, which was the tragic death of Charlie Kirk. And you see, where was God? You had a person doing God's work, and an insane person. Let's take the official narrative. Decided to do something terrible. But where was God to protect Charlie? Hitler he protected. Do you know how many times they tried to kill Hitler? Just look it up. They shot at him and missed. Really? Couldn't God have just nudged the bullet? The same way with Charlie? Couldn't have just... No, not here. Not on my child. This is my point. When it suits their narratives, the positive is God. And usually the positive is God. But the negative is silence. The negative are the forces of evil. The negative are our fault. You got cancer because you didn't take care of your health. You got cancer because you sinned. You got cancer because you're evil. Now, a child who's born that way, it's silence. You know, because what's the justification here? For a little human who has done no crime, completely innocent, doesn't even understand the world, doesn't even understand who they are. What? Where is God for them? All around the world. Where is God? Now a 60-year-old goes to chemotherapy, radiotherapy, wherever money can buy, they are cured, and that's thank God. And people buy it. People buy it. Tragedies that lead to positive outcomes is thank God. People buy it. Tragedies that lead to bad outcome, to death, is silence, and people buy it. This is how good manipulators they are. So, let me try and organize the thinking here. How tragedy, death, and miracles. And here miracles we are using as positive outcomes. Not these fantastical things they love to claim, no. Positive outcomes are used as a manipulation tool by attributing the good to God, by ignoring, attributing to the devil, or even blaming us for the evil. That's how they manipulate people. Everything good that happens, every miracle that happens, positive outcome, those are all thanks to God. Everything evil that happens, everything bad that happens, it's all thanks to the devil, to you, or silence. This is how this sick game is played. Let me end with a story a friend told me a while ago. They had to stay at a hospital with someone, and they left them in the area that took care of children. And there was a child there with their mother, and they couldn't eat. They were not allowed to eat. But you are in a hospital. When it's time for everyone to eat, everyone gets their food, and the smell of the food would fill the environment. And whenever was the time, a little child kept begging their mother for food. And the most they could have is use a humid tissue on their lips. And they kept begging it, and begging it. His friend told me they couldn't eat. The entire time they had to stay there, they couldn't eat at all. And why is that? That's a good God? That's the child's fault? That's the parents' fault. It's the part of you, right? They want to find someone to blame. There is not God. And they use whatever they can for their advantage to manipulate people into thinking there is a good God watching over them. And as long as they obey, because this is the trick, right? You don't have to live. You can choose how to live. You have to live the way they tell you to live. If that's what you want, good for you. Man, these last 2 episodes, they're ending in a very depressing note, huh? Oh well. It is what happens. Now, how can I say, if you like the episode, if you like all this disgrace, if you like all this madness, all this insanity of this God, of these people talking about God, because God doesn't exist, right? I always operate within this narrative, but yeah, they made up everything. That's why it's such a freaking disgusting thing. But yeah, if you like it, consider subscribing, liking, sharing the video. Check X. Oh boy. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you all next time.